The year is 2014. Bungie has just released the beta of its newest IP, Destiny, in which you pick between three classes, a hunter, a warlock, and a titan, and you raise that character's level to a cap of 7 within a limited explorable space and repeatable strike to play. The next thing you know, September hits, and Destiny begins to gain traction as the newest looter shooter experience. It was the same content over and over, but it drew you in. You just had to chase that next engram for a chance at better gear, a new weapon, or if you were lucky, your first exotic drop. This was the sense of wonder and limitless potential we felt as we sailed through Destiny's honeymoon period. Although the content was sparse at the time, especially when compared to the developments that the IP has made over the last 6 years, the essence of this new take on the looter shooter genre captured the hearts of many gamers looking for something to shake up their daily routine. At some point in time, this magical emotion just began to fade, only to be briefly rekindled with major game-changing content drops that seemed like Destiny was finally going to be back on track. The Taken King, Forsaken, Shadowkeep, all of these are touted to be some of the best expansions to have graced the Destiny community, each bringing a series of unique quality of life improvements to the franchise. However, even with the success of each Destiny era, the game still manages to struggle with embracing an identity to settle upon. Sometimes the balancing act of providing a story-driven PvE experience while also making the PvP experience feel fair for players of varying skill levels at that is easily disrupted. This in turn has caused frustration time and time again, and here we are once more feeling that same frustration. So I asked the question, what is Destiny 2 missing right now? I am but a single guardian in a sea of opinions, but hopefully I can use this video to articulate some constructive yet critical feedback and speak for the many players that are finding themselves just as lost as I am. My name is Cryptic. I am a D1 beta veteran, and this is the current state of Destiny 2 from my perspective. Now, for the sake of brevity, I will not be covering any content that is yet to be released, nor will I be delving into the deep lore of Destiny. I'm only going to be covering Destiny 2 right now out of face value, and also, I am not a game developer, nor do I claim to understand the development process, so I understand there are some issues that can't be addressed right now, but Bungie has released a couple of recent TWABs that are addressing some of the issues that we're facing right now, and I highly recommend that you go and read those before forming your own opinion. Now, without further ado, let's get started. So let's talk about Destiny 1's major gameplay loop. At the basic core, Destiny has always revolved around weekly activities that reset themselves every Tuesday for the past 6 years. After completing the main story missions, a player would log on, grab bounties, and proceed into strikes, nightfalls, raids, the Crucible, anything that they had to do to complete any weekly challenges, and thus rewarding more powerful gear. Of course, there are exceptions to this pattern, such as Iron Banner that would come around once a month and it lasted a week, Trials of Osiris that would start every Friday and it would last until reset, and the occasional holiday event. That's it. As Destiny 2 currently sits, the gameplay loop has been greatly relieved of this monotony with the introduction of Gambit, the Menagerie, Black Armory Forges, and seasonal activities, and yet it still doesn't seem to capture that same interest that we once had. So where did it all go wrong? At some point in time in every Destiny player's life, we decided that enough was enough. We became tired of doing the same activities over and over without any form of change to the core mechanics. Destiny 2 has acquired a level of stress akin to having chores to do before your mother gets home. The time constraints of weekly content may keep the game organized, but it heavily emphasizes the fear of missing out when it comes to individual player progression. For the average vet, this is no change from how the game has always been, but for new players, this becomes not only a very quick turnoff, but overwhelming very, very quickly. It's no secret that Destiny 1 struggled with content droughts that were felt heavily between DLC drops, but D2 has now solved that issue by creating seemingly endless list of busy work under the guise of titles, which, might I add, have only gotten easier and easier to complete as each season goes by because people are finding less and less time to do them. Though these titles do create another form of in-game goal for truly hardcore players, but in my opinion, memorable gaming moments are far more valuable than achievements to hunt down and flex on players that generally do not care. Unfortunately, most of these problems are due to Destiny being a live game, and Bungie is already walking an extremely thin tightrope as they try to cater to both hardcore and casual players. And as long as Destiny continues to exist within this space, I don't foresee this problem getting any easier. Now, I've also taken the time to sit back and personally reflect on how I've changed as a player. Back in Destiny 1, I was a 17-year-old in high school with much more time on my hands than I do have now, and I've gone through 5 years of college, gotten engaged to my fiance, and currently work a full-time job. Unfortunately, I've gone from managing all 3 classes, running raids every week, and playing trials on the weekend to barely being able to squeeze in 5 to 10 hours a week of gameplay. I've come to terms with my new casual status, and I understand that most aspects of the game are no longer made for me, but this doesn't excuse the lack of excitement that not just me, but the community has felt over the past few months. Take the conclusion of the most recent Destiny event, Guardian Games, for example. The event was hyped to be a clash of the classes, as if hunters and titans and warlocks alike would band together and prove who was the best. However, the event just fizzled away into who had the most time to complete bounties, who had the most time to run repetitive activities as efficiently as possible and make all these laurels to receive an award that would have just been better off coming from a very well-made Cabal boss fight. Oh, and if you did complete all of that work for that weapon, your efforts will be made meaningless once the weapon is added back into the loot pool a couple of seasons down the road for all the players that missed out. How does that make you feel? How does that make you feel knowing that you sat there and you did all of this work just to have it immediately invalidated in a couple of seasons? Destiny 2 is missing a sense of purpose right now. The reason to chase after the loot that we so heavily covet. I believe that Destiny has become so focused on delivering the loot that the means of acquisition, as well as the quality of the rewards, have fallen to subpar levels. Imagine if Heir Apparent dropped from a Cabal Colossus at the end of a strike, and you got it only if you played that strike as 3 of the same class during Guardian Games, and they didn't tell anybody that. What if you just found that out? Then after Guardian Games ended, what if that strike then went into the strike playlist and it became a random drop? Imagine if every strike had strike-specific loot like in Destiny 1. Imagine actually feeling the sense of urgency from knowing that the pyramid ships are getting closer. When we started Shadowkeep and we saw that pyramid sitting under the moon's surface and the atmosphere and the sounds in the background, and it really made your heart drop. And then after Shadowkeep, it just ended. It's like, oh, well, you guys are gonna have to wait to find out what happens with this next year. Bungie is really good at leaving breadcrumbs, and then they leave more breadcrumbs. And then this ambiguous event is going to lead into this ambiguous event, which is going to lead into the next ambiguous event. But Bungie, please, just give me the whole loaf, or at least a slice. Because we keep going without closure. We just keep telling a story and dragging it on and dragging it on, and we just feel like we're being tagged along this whole plot line that really doesn't even have a sense of ending, a sense of meaning. Like I said, I'm in no way, shape, or form a developer, but I know that development takes time, it takes resources, and I know that if Bungie were without certain constraints, they would make Destiny 2 probably one of the greatest gaming titles to date. But they are with constraints. They are dealing with limited resources. They are self-publishing, so they are going to have limited funds. And I know that you can call me a fool, but if I had to put my time and energy and support into a certain studio, Bungie has that for me without hesitation. But if we can't reach a sense of closure, if we don't really get a big event that really shakes the foundation of Destiny with this fall expansion, I'm afraid that this D1 beta player is going to have to decide that enough is enough. Now I shift the question over to you guys. What do you think will keep Destiny going for another 5-6 years? What do you think it is missing, and what do you think that it needs to keep your attention, to bring that magic back. I plan on making a few more videos about Taken King and Shadowkeep and Forsaken and the best content out of those that really gave us those emotions that we loved about Destiny. But for now, I just want to focus on where we are right now as a whole. My name is Cryptic, and I appreciate you guys for coming. I'll catch you guys in the next one.